Hello, welcome to the Rough Characters podcast. I am Philip Overby,
And I'm John Palladino.
and today is a special episode, being that the game Diablo 4 recently released, and we've both had a chance to get our hands on it and play it, and we're at kind of different stages in the game. So today we're just going to talk about our impressions of it and maybe comparing it to previous Diablos and how we feel the game measures up in a variety of ways. So we're basically just going to talk about that today, and then when the episode's over, that'll be it. No news, no game today, just talking about Diablo. So maybe first, let's talk about our initial impressions of the game. So when you first loaded up the game and started playing, what did you feel about like everything in general?
Hmm. I really liked it on like first impressions. I thought it looked really good, played really good. I was really interested in getting further into the game, and I liked. At first, I really liked the big open world, but I think my opinion may have changed a bit on that,
Hmm.
which perhaps we'll get into in a little bit. But uh, I think that the dungeons are pretty fun and the sellers are pretty fun. Uh, at first, I thought the enemy variety was really cool. There was a lot of different enemies early on, and it felt like you were always fighting something different.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, when you start to get to like later regions, the enemy variety is completely disintegrated. It's like basically they take the same models of old enemies, kind of recolor and rename them, and then it's like that's the desert variety of this. That's
Oh.
like this variety, and that's really upsetting to me because really early on I was like, oh my god, everywhere I go, there's a new cool creature and or a zombie or something, and it's always something different and cool. And then unfortunately, it's like the second half of the game is like, okay, there's nothing new, and
Hmm.
that was a little annoying. What was your first impressions?
Um, I feel like maybe I'm just thinking about past Diablos, but I felt like the story, the story that I've experienced so far, and like a lot of the world building stuff has been more interesting to me than previous Diablos. I don't know how to explain that perfectly, but like it seems like previous Diablos is just like, I am Satan and I'm gonna kill you. But the main villain Lilith seems to be a lot more interesting, like the way she's almost like a more like a real devil where she like promises things and like if you do this, you can get your freedom from the gods or whatever. So like that stuff was cool and like um just the general feeling of the game felt I don't want to say previous Diablos are cheesy because they're not necessarily cheesy, but I don't know, it felt more serious like a um
Oh yeah, I've heard that. I'll make a confession. I've played Diablo 2, 3, and 4, and I've played well 2 and 3 a ridiculous amount, and 4 I just got into endgame. But Diablo 2, the storyline was so boring to me that I skipped everything.
mm.
Diablo 3, the story was so boring to me that I skipped everything. Diablo 4, I heard the story was interesting, but I just skipped everything. I just I don't know. I guess not really interested in the story to Diablo overall. I did watch like the first cinematic, and I think there was maybe another cinematic that I saw, and I did pay attention to maybe the first like hour or two of storyline, and then I was just like, screw this, I want to go loot stuff.
Yeah.
So I started skipping through it, and I don't really regret it, but I have heard that compared to the other ones, this one is like way better storyline wise, but I wouldn't know because I never really paid attention to. I think I did one run in Diablo 2 when I was a kid, and like I actually read everything, and then I was like, why did I do this? This was such a mistake.
Well, I guess in a way, like if I play an RPG, I kind of want to pay attention to the story at least the first time I play it. So like,
I'm right there with you.
so like
I don't know what it is about Diablo.
I understand like Diablo is more of a like get stronger, get cool loot. It's more that style of game. I feel where it's where I know a lot of people don't play it for story, but um yeah, once you start playing it, the story is feels like it's there, but it's not necessary to really play the game. So I played. So going back to first impressions, usually when I play an RPG, and this sounds stupid or whatever, I don't care. But usually when I play an RPG, I make a character of every class that's available or every kind of basic class that's available. And then I sample them to kind of get an idea which one I like the best. So I've done this with Skyrim. I've done this with um, Divinity, Original Sin 2. I like to sample out the different classes and kind of get an idea. Luckily, Diablo only has 5, so that it was much easier to
Sure.
do. I could do in a night. So I started with the sorcerer because that was the one I was most interested in, just based on my previous experience with the sorcerer and some stuff, gameplay stuff I saw. And my first impression of that was like, there's a lot of cool stuff I can see, the sorcerer being a fun class to play just because there's so much stuff. So that was the first class I picked, and like so far, I'm glad I made that choice. So because it's been my favorite of the 5. So I'm glad I picked that first. So and then I'm doing like a pyromancer kind of build where like everything's fire. So I'm just like incinerating everything around me. So that's been fun. So let's kind of talk about each character that we have played. So sorcerer was my first pick. And you've played the sorcerer also, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and I when I played the sorcerer, I also went the pyromancy build, and that
Yeah.
was so much fun. And I do regret not like continuing with that character.
Yeah, so I feel like as the game progresses, I'm gonna unlock lots of cool stuff with this. So like even early level, I get the impression that this is going to be a cool class to play because like even low level, you get pretty cool starting abilities. I feel. Um, so my second choice, which is probably what I'll play with the second time I play it, is the rogue. And the reason I like the rogue so much is just because of how much faster it plays compared to the other classes. Um, like I was literally just like like throwing knives all over the place. Um,
Yeah,
so that was fun just because of how fast it plays, and if I feel like that's another one that has a lot of cool projectile stuff, and I guess typically I'm more of a ranged kind of character, but
yeah, me too.
it does have stuff that's like melee based also, so you could go either way with the build. But my build right now is like mostly knife throwing and probably I'll probably do some bow stuff later on, I would guess. So that's been my second favorite so far. How about you? Did you play the rogue at all?
Yeah, the rogue is probably my third favorite class. I thought that maybe fourth. It's hard to tell which one, but I actually really like the rogue. I thought that it was pretty fun. My problem with the rogue is just I looked at the skill tree and the head, and a lot of the later talents and stuff were like things that I just don't have interest in, like
Mm.
traps and stuff. And eh. But early abilities were really cool for the rogue. And you're right, it played really fast. And I tried like a bow build, and that was really cool. Uh, so I think that if I had looked ahead at the talent tree, I'd be even higher on the rogue. But knowing the second half of like what they get, it's just like
Mm.
zero interest to me at all. It actually really reminded me of I think it was the assassin from Diablo 2.
Mm.
And again, I wasn't a fan of the assassin all that much, but it was fun.
Um, so that's something I haven't done is like actually looked ahead at the skill trees because I guess as I play, I just like to see what unlocks as it happens. So I didn't even know they get traps or anything like that.
Oh,
So
okay. That's funny. I don't do that with a class that I like want to play.
I see.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna play the rogue. What do they have?
Yeah. um. Okay. Surprisingly enough, well, maybe not surprisingly, because this was my default character in Diablo 3 was barbarian, and I kind of have mixed feelings about melee classes in Diablo, because I'm
Yeah.
usually more of a ranged person, but I feel like the barbarian has a lot of interesting builds that you can go with, and I went with a I don't know what you would call it, but like a bludgeoning build where I'm just using my hammer or my mace or whatever, and that was really fun because I was just like bow 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 and just like stunning everything around me. So I was just like beating the shit out of everything around me. And even he's or she in my case, even she was really slow. Uh, it was really satisfying, like just like hitting everything like a you know Mack truck sort of. And so that one was actually my third favorite so far. I don't know if I would do a full playthrough with it or not. Um, I might want to do like after I beat the whole game, I might want to do something with the barbarian, just like I forget what they had in Diablo 3, but it was basically a mode where there's no story, you just like went to dungeons and just killed stuff. Um, Rift,
The end
something like
game.
that.
Diablo 3's end game was really good. We'll talk about end game later. But my experience with the barbarian is that I didn't try the barbarian in this game, and there's a reason for that. In Diablo 2, the barbarian had an ability called Magic Find or something, I think,
Mm,
where you could click on a corpse and you had a chance of extra loot. And you could upgrade that to a crazy stat. So it'd be like, I think the end of that was like 50% a chance of getting extra loot. So I played the barbarian in Diablo 2 a stupendous amount and farmed corpses everywhere and got so many set items. It was insane. And so, and I didn't even like the barbarian in that game. I actually don't. I like, I prefer the range classes as well.
yeah.
But I played it so much in that game that I never want to play barbarian again. And then in Diablo 3, they also had the barbarian, which I played for about 2.5 seconds, and I was just like, no, I can't do this.
Mm,
And so in Diablo 4, I didn't even try him because I don't care. First of all, I mean I didn't look, but I'm certain they didn't give him that ability again because that was really an unfair ability in Diablo 2 that probably should not have been on him
mm,
or anyone unless everyone got that ability. It's so cheap. You just basically double your loot compared to anyone else. Now I understand that mathematically it's not actually doubling your loot, but when you compared like my stash of set items and stuff to my brother who was also playing at the time, uh yeah, it was at least doubled. It was crazy how much like
mm.
extra crap I was getting. So yeah, I just don't have any interest in that class. But I'm not really a big fan of the boring like melee class to begin with. Like the monk in Diablo 3 is another example of like a class that I never wanted to try.
Yeah, I'm not as averse to playing in a melee class because like Diablo 3, I did the barbarian was my first main
Right.
character. Um and he did have a lot of cool things, but once I played the sorcerer in Diablo 3, I was like, man, I really wish I would have played the sorcerer.
Yeah.
So like Diablo 4, I didn't even hesitate. Like, okay, I'm doing sorcerer first. Um, but I did like what I played with the bar. I was thinking barbarian was going to be my least favorite, but actually, I kind of enjoyed what little I did play of it. Um, my second least favorite or fourth, I would say, is necromancer. Um, that was the last one I played, and there's just something about. I mean, you had kind of told me you were kind of disappointed in it, and so I kind of went into it with a little bit lower expectations, but like I don't think it's terrible, but it's not fun. I don't know. Just like when I started playing
Yeah.
it, I just kind of felt like this doesn't feel that fun compared to the other three that I mentioned before. If that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
it's fine.
No. Okay. So Necromancer is my main class. I got to end game with Necromancer, unfortunately. It was around level 40, I think, when I realized I've made a terrible mistake.
Level 40. Oh shit.
uh well, because I was playing, I was like really excited to get to where you get the golem.
Mm,
And that did not change anything, unfortunately.
mm.
My biggest problem with the Necromancer is, yeah, he's really boring. Really boring. I'm a minion build person, so I went to minion build, which apparently is not great compared to a non-minion build Necromancer.
Mm,
But if there's a minion build, I'm going to always go for the minion build. And I hear it's supposed to get buffed. We'll see.
mm.
But the way that it works is so boring compared to Diablo 2 or Diablo 3. Like, it's just so boring. I don't even know if I can explain why it's boring, but
That's how I felt too.
it's so boring.
I can't explain why I didn't.
I loved it in Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. I loved the minion hordes, and they were so fun. And the minions are not fun in this game at all. I think okay, so part of it might be because I don't think you could in Diablo 2 either. But in Diablo 3 you can control like where your minions attacked. That was a nice like part of it. In this one you don't have any control over your minions, and I don't know. Even if I had control over my minions, uh I don't know if that improves much. There's just something really boring about it. And I don't know what it is, because when you compare the minions to the other games, it's not like there's any difference really, but the other games felt so much more fun. I don't know. It's very
Yeah,
weird.
my wife played we played Diablo 3. Necromancer was her main class, and she really liked it, summoning the things and everything. And then so I was trying it out, and I almost I think the what turned me off about it is I felt like I wasn't playing, if that makes sense. Like I felt
I
like
mean, that's like,
yeah, I wasn't playing the game. I was just like summoning things and they were killing things, and I was just kind of standing there and kind of doing something, but not really. I don't know.
I think that's normal for pet builds on these games in general. But usually I have more fun. Like the Witch Doctor in Diablo 3 was my main class. There wasn't a Necromancer when I played that game. Uh, but and I had a ton of fun with him. He was so much fun. And then I did go back and play the Necromancer when they added him, and I thought the Necromancer was fun too. But Uh, this this necromancer is not it. And now I'm in endgame with the necromancer, and I'm just like, it's so boring.
Yeah, I
I'm
can't.
really sad about it.
I mean, I realized early on that the class just wasn't for me.
I
I,
did too, but I was being stupid and optimistic, and I was like, it's got to get better, right?
Mm,
It doesn't get better,
mm,
and that that really sucks because I could have been a pyromancer, and that would have been so much fun.
yeah.
I could have been a druid too, and that could have been fun. Which we haven't talked about the druid yet, but I guess we can now. And with the with the druid, I played the druid in the beta,
Mm,
and I had a ton of fun with the druid at first. That was
mm,
my main class in the beta because I was like, okay, I know I'm gonna go necromancer in the main game, so let me go hard on a character that like I want to try out. So the druid was who I really played a lot. I got pretty far, like level 13 or 14. I didn't get very like super far in the beta because you could get to level 20 because I was having so many network problems. I don't know why, but the problem with that class, at least in the early levels, is that I went the bear build.
mm.
I don't know if I was just stupid and went a bad build. But good lord, I was wailing on things forever. I did no damage, and it was really hard to survive. Uh, I heard that Druid is like one of the best classes in Endgame, so maybe just early he sucks. I don't know, but it was really hard to play him. Uh,
Mm,
it just you're sitting there wailing on people with your like claws and doing nothing, and
yeah.
then it's I don't know. The survivability I didn't think was like that great either on the I don't know. But
So yeah, that one was my least favorite just because I felt like it didn't do anything well. It, it, it
yeah,
kind of
exactly.
it kind of does well, at least at the beginning. Like you said,
Yeah.
maybe it's a class, it's just a slow build. But I felt like if I'm going to use magic, I'm going to use the sorcerer because it's cooler. And
Yeah.
if I'm gonna use melee, I'm gonna use the barbarian because it's cooler. So it's like a hybrid. To me, it's kind of a hybrid class that you can kind of.
And the
Some
druid can summon too, I think. But if you're gonna summon,
yeah, yeah. Do
I don't
necromancer, I
know.
guess.
I would say do necromancer, but don't do necromancer because it's really boring. I'm really sad. I'm still playing the necromancer.
So
It takes so long.
I felt like druid was just gave me the least
Yeah.
just the least interest. Necromancer was a little bit higher just because I did like the blood, some of the blood stuff, but um still it just wasn't, those two just didn't feel they fit me as well. So I feel like if I stuck with the druid, it looks like it has a lot of cool stuff, like they, like you said, like in game it's probably pretty awesome, but just starting out it doesn't have any particular abilities that really wowed me. Like transforming into a
Yeah.
bear is cool, but
Yeah, I've
um
never been into shape shifting anyway. Like,
yeah,
it's not my thing.
I guess I just
Like,
like when I play Diablo, I just like to be a killing machine. So like just obliterate everything around me. And the sorcerer
yeah, and half the
does
fun in
that.
Diablo is seeing your appearance change as you get stuff. But
Mm,
when you're like a bear the entire time,
yeah, yeah.
you don't see the new cool like chest armor you got. And that was like something that was really irritating me too. I was like, oh man, I'm just never seeing anything. It's kind of depressing.
Well, that'd be cool if the bear was like wearing your clothes. They like just stretched and then like the Incredible Hulk or something.
That'd be so funny.
I mean, that would make more sense anyway. I mean, your clothes aren't just going to disappear when you shapeshift. Uh,
Right.
So we talked about all the classes. We kind of briefly talked about the enemies, and I heard some people were complaining about Blizzard keeps nerfing the mobs, and people were upset that like they kill like a small mob, and then they're just walking for a while, and then there's another small mob. And the thing that was cool, at least for me in Diablo 3, was you were constantly getting swarmed with enemies.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
you never really feel like there's nothing to do. But there were a few periods at the beginning of Diablo 4 anyway. I don't know. And this is something people complained about, I guess, but you do kill a bunch of enemies like at one point, but then it's like you have this time to just like walk. And
Yeah.
I don't really want that. I want to be assaulted constantly. And I
Can I
guess
rant about that for a second?
about
Just enemies in general.
okay, sure.
There's so many issues with the enemies in this game that it's really irritating me
Mm,
on like a level that I can't actually emphasize. Uh, so I mentioned the enemy variety, which is not what I'm talking about here,
mm,
but that is kind of part of it. It gets really stale real quick once you start to see the whole world. Uh, No, this is something that I thought would change when I went from tier 2 to tier 3 difficulty, and it doesn't. But in Diablo 3, it was really fun because you had like the blue packs of enemies, you had the yellow like champion enemies,
mm.
and then you had like the special enemies, and then you had uh I think they might have one more enemy. I don't know. It's been a while. But every time you encountered any of those enemies, you're like it was really cool and scary, but also uh you chase these enemies down on purpose because if you saw on the map there's like a legendary or a champion enemy over here or an elite pack of enemies over here, you chase them down and you fought them and it felt rewarding a lot of the time. In this game, I don't feel that's the case. And there's also only like elite enemies, really. And the special abilities and affixes that they have, in my opinion, are for the most part pretty boring compared to like I thought Diablo 3 just was more interesting with the enemies. In this one you have like Waller and Poison and like lightning and frozen. I mean, you have a lot of the same ones, but I feel like we're missing so many cool things. Like in Diablo 3, you had like the chained enemies, which was kind of cool. I don't know. But you kill these enemies in this game, and I just feel like kind of leads me into another rant topic, which is the loot. But uh before I get to the loot, I want to also back up and talk about the bosses of the game. Because I'm not going to spoil any story or boss names for you or anyone listening. But the bosses in this game are so pathetically boring and stupid. When you think about Diablo 2, I don't know how much you played that game, but when I think about Diablo 2, I can name so many bosses in that game.
Mm.
When I think about Diablo 3, I can name so many bosses in that game. And each boss was visually like super cool and different and impressive and like did new things that were unique. Like I don't know, in Diablo 2, there was Duriel, I think was the name of like the boss of Act 2, which was this like sand maggot thingy. And that was a really memorable fight. In Diablo 3, you had like, I don't know, the jailer or Gom, this like big yellow, gross poison blob. And like they all did this different stuff and they all had these cool names and they all visually looked way different than anything that you've really fought before. And in Diablo 4, there are two types of bosses. You have your I mean I'm probably over exaggerating here, but it felt like there was only two types of main bosses. Person with staff that did magic and summoned enemies, and demon. And the demons were not interesting. They were just large scale size versions of the same demons you've been fighting all along.
Mm.
And the person with staff was not interesting either because their magic was the same magic you've been seeing all game long. And they summoned the same basic enemies you've been fighting all game long. And like, they're not fun. I don't remember a single boss name outside of one boss. And the only reason I remember that boss's name is because that boss was in Diablo 2. And that was like the only memorable fight, too, which is like beyond depressing to me because one of my favorite things about Diablo 2 and 3 was like, let's go farm the butcher. Like, how cool would that be? Let's go farm whoever. In Diablo 2, I could do this really cool run on Act 3, I think it was, where you went through this map, and you killed like uh I don't remember it. It's like the council, which is like this group of bosses, and then you could like teleport to this other place and do like a act boss or something. I don't remember. But in this one, I have no desire. I actually actively don't want to fight any of these bosses again because they're so fucking boring. Like that's not good. One of my favorite things in old Diablos was re-killing bosses and seeing if I could get some cool loot from them. And that brings me into the second part of this rant, which I'm sorry that I'm just babbling on forever, but I have some things I need to say. And the loot in this game is fucking garbage. It's so boring. It's so stupid. I hate the loot in this game. It was good early on, I thought, but it quickly becomes really monotonous and boring. And the legendaries and uniques are trash. They're just so bad every time. Uh I've been in end game for 10 levels now, I think. I've maybe replaced gear twice. There's just no I never get anything better than what I have. It's insane. I get legendaries dropping all the time. None of them are interesting. None of them are better than what I have. The abilities are crap. Now we have this new system where you go and do like dungeons to get these like legendary like things that you can then put into other equipment instead of just collecting legendary items. I hate that system so much. I hate the fact that we don't have set items in this game. I heard that those are coming, but we'll
So,
see.
so let me stop you.
Okay.
So I can go back a little bit.
Yes.
So one good thing I think about a game like Diablo is that you have what you get at launch. And then once it's like a living game in a way because they can do patches, they
Yeah.
can do updates, they do seasons. So there you don't feel like okay, the game is if you don't like these things, the game is lost forever. Um,
Right.
you still have hope like okay they're going to do DLC, they're going to do and maybe they'll address some of these things, so that's always the good thing about games these days. When you buy them, it's not necessarily even you bought the product, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the end of the product. So
To be
from
fair, Diablo 2 and 3
had a
were
similar
both
thing.
massively improved after like the first expansions.
Yeah.
Uh but I would also say that base Diablo 2 and 3 are way better than base Diablo 4.
So going back to the enemies a little bit, like I've only fought I think one boss so far, and I never felt in danger. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the problem. That's just my general feeling about Diablo. Like you have to really play on a harder difficulty. Like normal difficulty, you never feel like you're really gonna die. I think I did die once. I went into some random dungeon and I got overwhelmed by the boss in the dungeon and I got killed. But the first major boss in the game, I never felt in danger at all. And for me, boss battles and RPGs, you should at least feel like, okay, I might die once or twice trying to fight this thing. Um, but the pattern was so predictable. It's just like, okay, he does this, and that might be an issue with later bosses too. Like you can predict what they're going to do so easily. Um, and this is a tangent, but and I know you hate these games, and I know you probably hate most games like this, but like Dark Souls and even the recent Final Fantasy 16 demo, when I fought bosses, I felt like legitimately in danger, and I felt I'm probably going to lose because I can't figure out the pattern quick enough. My mind doesn't operate fast enough to keep up with what's happening. Um, so, like with the Dark Souls games, every boss is memorable. I can name you every Dark Souls boss I fought and what they do, and
Right.
I can name the bosses from the Final Fantasy demo just because they were so different and so unique in the ways they did things. Um, so that's a worrying thing about like a RPG game, like a Diablo, when the bosses are predictable or like, and again, hopefully this is something I haven't experienced enough to really give an opinion about, but like, um, hopefully something that's addressed going forward. But and then to comment on the loot, this is just a general feeling about Diablo. I don't understand what the point of having money is.
Diablo 4, there actually is a point of money for once.
Okay, I haven't
What
got to that point yet, but
oh yeah, so money is actually a thing. They actually have a few, I don't want to ruin it for you because you'll figure it out as you go, but they do unlock some systems that cost a decent amount of money to start doing some cool things. But yeah, in other Diablo games, there's not like a reason for money. About items though and loot in this game, to compare to uh Diablo 2 and 3, uh the legendaries and the set items in 2 and 3 were really cool because they actually, more so in 3. I don't know if 2 really did this. It's been a while. They really changed how you played the game. They really like elevated your build, I felt like. And so many of the legendaries and uniques and stuff in Diablo 4 that I've gotten are like the most mundane, boring, like special effect ever. And that is really annoying to me. But how do you feel about the skill tree in this game? Because I fucking hate it. I feel like I'm coming off like as a Diablo 4 hater, which is crazy because I don't hate the game, but I do think that everyone likes it too much.
well, I was gonna say, once we finished, like, do you even like this game? Um, I like it a lot so far. But this is
I did
just
too. I just have some major issues with it.
yeah. My issues aren't as major as yours because I just haven't got that far yet. I'm looking at more of it as like a starting player.
Yeah.
The skill tree stuff is still something I'm kind of exploring, and I love that. This is one thing I do love. Here's some love, Diablo 4. Uh, that you can reset things up to level 8 or something.
Yeah.
So if you don't like your build, you don't feel like you have to start over again. You can actually reset it. And then I think even later in the game, you can reset things if you pay like money.
Yep. It
Um,
costs some gold, but it's not that expensive.
so I like that. That way, if you don't like the build you got, because this happened with me a little bit. I think when I was playing with the druid, I didn't like. I mean, I just didn't like the druid overall. But
Right.
I didn't like some of the choices I made, so I reset it, and then I think I did the same with the necromancer. Um, but so far the skill trees are I haven't messed around with too much because I've only gotten like the highest level I've gotten is 8, so I'm nowhere near like completing a lot of stuff. So one thing I was a little, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but I was a little annoyed at the beginning. Like your abilities are locked, like some of them are locked. So like you can only have 2 abilities at once. But I unlocked several things in the skill tree
Oh,
that I couldn't use. So I was a little confused about that at the beginning, but I guess maybe that's a standard thing.
oh yeah,
Um,
that was that way in Diablo 3 as well.
okay. So yeah, so far, for example, the sorcerer, I don't know how much different the gameplay is if I had chosen like a frost build or whatever. I don't know if it's just like different color or or like oh
I've
you
seen
you know.
I've seen the lightning build because that's what my brother plays,
Hmm.
and it does seem uh, like decently different.
Yeah, so far I like what I've seen with it, but I don't know. I kind of I kind of feel excited about the sorcerer because I feel like even low level I have really cool abilities, so I'm excited to see like what I get later. Um
Yeah. Can I
uh
complain about one more thing?
sure. Wouldn't be you if it wasn't.
I know. I hate the skills. They're fun, they're cool, but I hate them. I Diablo 3, it was so much more fun, in my opinion. This is a huge hot take. I am a huge fan of Diablo 3, and so many people hate it. But regardless, I loved how they did skills in that game because you got to change the skill by like a lot of different ways, and they did different things, and it's really cool. And in this game, you don't have that, which is annoying because I miss that. And I find the skill tree to be really annoying. I just I don't know. I liked how Diablo 3 did skills way more because you just unlock the skills, then you got to choose how you use them and change them based on what part of that skill you liked, I guess. And in this game, you have this massive skill tree for no reason, I feel like, because the builds are going to be pretty much the same because you only have 6 slots for like abilities. So everyone is going to have, if you're smart, everyone's going to have just 6 abilities. You're going to fill them out with the 0 choices that you have because even on the ability, so each ability is like you can level up 5 times, and then usually it has like maybe one upgrade that does something that you don't choose. You just that's the upgrade, and then they have like a branching path of like 2 upgrades that slightly change it maybe, and that's it. And then you have a bunch of passives that you can like also choose from on the skill tree. So it looks like there's like choices, but I feel like there's not any. Uh, I will I will then praise Diablo 4 for the Paragon board, way better than the Paragon system in Diablo 3. That is actually awesome. I love that. It's really cool because you actually make choices and you
Mm.
actually have different places that you can like aim for to improve your builds and stuff. And that's really cool. But the skill tree, I really think is trash.
Yeah, I think um I don't I don't know. I don't look at all this stuff individually so much. where when I play a game, I kind of look at it as an overall experience. So like there might be something I don't like, but if I like the overall experience, I'll tend to like not nitpick it as much, I guess. It's just like that's what it is, whatever.
Yeah, I think
So
if Diablo 4 was the only Diablo game I played, I'd have no problem with it.
yeah.
But like, uh Diablo 3, I just really liked way more for that, the skill. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well,
I'm fiery right now.
I think like I said before, they might address if enough people complain about certain things. I feel like they're usually good about doing,
Yeah.
addressing those things. Um, I think one thing people complained about a lot was the gyms taking up too much
Oh my
inventory
god,
space.
dude. It takes up so much room.
And they're gonna do a fix to that apparently later.
Thank God.
They've talked about. It's not gonna happen soon, but
Literally half my inventory and every single run that I make is full of gems. It's insane. So annoying.
so at
Also, can
least
I rant about gems for a second too? There's only three types of like three tiers of gems. What the fuck? Why?
I
So
don't
weird.
I don't
Diablo 3
remember.
had like eight or something.
I don't remember. I don't remember how many tiers of gems there are. Yeah.
There was in Diablo 3, it was like crude, chips,
Uh,
regular,
super
uh,
unleaded.
and then I forgot where it went after regular, but it was like flawless, flawed, I think was one as well. I don't remember the entire tier, but there was like eight different types. And in Diablo 3, there's just crude, chips, and then regular.
You mean Diablo 4?
Ah, yeah, sorry. Yeah, Diablo 4. Now I have heard that expanding the gem tiers is actually something that is coming. I don't know if that's actually officially confirmed, but I think there was a leak that said something about uh gem tiers are going to be increasing. Uh, so we'll see, I
Well,
guess. But
this is kind of off topic also, but you know, I'm a teacher, so when I teach a lesson and I do certain activities, I give it to the students and then I kind of observe how they do it. And
right.
I think these days that's what developers do. They make a game and they're like, here's our game. And then the people play it and they're like, this sucks. I don't like this thing and I don't like this thing and da, 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 da. And then they can hear the feedback like, oh, okay. So that's one thing I like as a teacher is to get feedback from my students. Like if they don't like something, I try to fix it or change it or whatever. So that's the great thing about these days with games. They're, when like in the old days when you got a game, that was it. That's the game. Like fuck you if you don't like it.
Yes. Yes.
So that's the
It was
good thing.
nice, but it was also rough.
So that's the good thing about now is like if there are enough people that don't like some aspect of it, developers are usually good about fixing it or addressing it or whatever. But I also think there's a bit of entitled gamer syndrome where it's like,
Yes.
I don't like this. I'm not saying, well, you're kind of in that category, but not completely. But there's not this. And I want all of these things. Give them to me. And like
I'm
sometimes,
telling them to give it to me,
no, I'm
but they
not.
should.
I'm not saying you specifically, but like just
Right.
they can't fix everything that everyone has different complaints or things they don't like.
Right.
And if enough people like them, that's again the teacher thing. Like I do lots of games in my class, and sometimes I'll get feedback from students that say, Philip does too many games or whatever. Like one student says that. So like
Right.
I'm not going to change my whole class just because one student said it. So it just depends how many people complain about a specific thing. Um,
Right.
but I think it's easy to kind of compare Diablo 3 because Diablo 3 was a um, you know, once it was completed and like, the Ultimate Edition or whatever, um, it was like got really great reviews and compared to the original. But
Yeah,
I also
and
kind of,
I played the original, by the way, and I would say that original Diablo 3 was actually really good in a lot of ways. I disagree with some of the feedback that people had for it, but that's my opinion. I'm just saying that compared to the original version of Diablo 4,
yeah.
I would personally choose original Diablo 3, but
So
that's
for
just me.
for me, I'm still early in the game, so I'm still like
Yeah,
figuring stuff out. So, and I think one thing that's gonna make me enjoy the game more is the story stuff. And since you skipped all the story stuff, I think I'm gonna have more of a different experience, like an overall experience, I guess.
it's true. Can I ask you
Uh,
a question?
sure.
Oh, go ahead first, because mine
No,
is a little off. Okay. I was gonna ask you, you played Diablo 3.
yeah.
You got to endgame
Uh,
with like the greater, like the rifts and the greater rifts and the bounty board?
I'm not sure because I think,
Actually, that might have, I think they changed that so you didn't have to do that in game.
well,
But
I beat Diablo. Is that in game?
okay. Yeah, technically. And
But
then I
then
think the expansion
there,
added another act.
yeah, there's the expansion adds something else, which I felt like I didn't realize when I beat Diablo or whoever the last boss was. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm finished. And then they're like, hey, there's this other guy. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't want to fight this other guy. I want to be finished now. But I think that was the Reaper of Souls
Yeah.
expansion stuff. Um,
So did you play rifts and like do the bounty board and stuff?
I think I did some riffs. I'm pretty sure I did some riff stuff, and I did the season stuff for the
Okay.
um, seasonal
Did you
character or whatever.
did you like the rifts or the bounty board?
I remember liking them, yeah, um,
Okay.
because it was no story. It was just like killing stuff, and I
Yeah.
remember the enemies were a lot harder and everything.
Yeah. I love the rifts. I thought they were so much fun. I thought doing the bounty board runs was also really fun. Endgame in Diablo 4, I've been playing right now, and I don't mean to be a complainer,
You don't mean to
but I
be?
don't like it. I don't like it. I think Endgame is super boring because Endgame in Diablo 4 is just retreading the same stuff that you've done already. So I haven't done everything in Diablo 4. So it's not like killing me yet because right now I've actually kind of been working on side quests, which has nothing to do with endgame. And then sometimes I'll just do some of the endgame stuff, which again, some of it I haven't done because there's a few activities you can do, but they're all really boring. So you have like nightmare dungeons. They're not fun because you've done the dungeon already. All you're doing is making it harder. But the enemies in the game are not fun. And the loot sucks. So it's not like you're really getting anything out of it.
So let's
Um
let's wrap up now. What's your final score for 1 out of 10 Diablo 4? What do you give?
no, so I'm being like overly harsh.
Yeah.
Um I like the game. I just have a lot of problems with it. So
I mean, that's fine. Yeah.
I mean, for me, like it depends on what we're rating. If I had to rate the whole game, uh like a 5 out of 10 maybe, which
Just
is low.
straight down the middle.
It's just so average. But if I was going to grade Endgame, if I was going to grade like before Endgame, I think my scores would be different because I think before Endgame, even though it gets repetitious after a while, like painfully repetitious, I would still say the game was like a solid 7 or 8. Like it was really fun to do all of that stuff. It was fun to explore the world. It was fun to do the cellars and to do dungeons and stuff. Uh, world the not world the story bosses are awful, and I really still hated that part. But for the most part, I thought it was really fun, and each area looked kind of different and had different like stuff, and it was cool. End game, it's so bad for me. Like I really hate the end game. I would give it like a 2 or 3 out of 10. Like it's just there's nothing new or fun. I don't feel like the loop is that fun. Like I could do rifts all day long in Diablo 3. I've loved it. It was so fun. You go on the rift, you go, oh, look at this environment. This is cool. The rift was different every time. Uh the bosses were, interesting. They weren't like amazing, but they were I feel like they were interesting than the bosses, like more interesting than the bosses in this game. Also, something that we didn't talk about, which I don't know if you've even found a treasure goblin in the game. I can't imagine you have yet.
No.
But do you remember the treasure goblins in Diablo 3?
Yeah, yeah.
There was like 800 different types, and they were all cool. You had like the regular ones, and you had all the other ones.
Mm.
They were that was kind of fun. There's only regular treasure goblins in Diablo 4. I mean, that's not a big deal, but
I
it's just
mean,
another thing that I'm like, damn it.
yeah, again, it could be,
All to be fair, all the other treasure goblins were added after the game launched,
mm.
so that's possible that happens in this game.
So for me, this is another thing we didn't talk about, but um, I just play Diablos as by myself right now.
Yeah,
But I could see like as a couch co-op or playing online with other people, it might make the experience more fun for me.
it
Because I just
actually ruins it.
really okay.
Here's why: because when you invite someone to your party, I've never seen this happen before in another Diablo game. But when you invite someone to your party, your world map and objectives completely change to what theirs is.
Oh,
And it's really annoying because if you're so this happened with my brother and I. It's the most annoying thing. Uh I think I invited him to play my game, and we did like a bunch of stuff, and not all of it like transferred, if I remember correctly, to his like profile. I think some of that might have been story missions though. I don't remember. Uh but he couldn't even check to see like if it's impossible to check the story missions to see like if you're at the right spot compared to like where the other person is, unless you have the order of the story missions memorized in your head or something. It's the whole thing is so frustrating,
mm.
and I can't stand it.
All right. Well, all right. Can I talk about one thing I don't like?
Yes, please. I don't want to be the only hater on the
I will
podcast.
say one thing I don't like. And I think this is just me being I don't know what you would call it, but OCD maybe. But I
Okay.
like I like to be able to save a game and know that it's saved. When I play RPGs, I want to save the game and be able to see my save file. And I saved it, and I saved it at this time. So one thing I don't like, I think a lot of people hate this, the always online aspect.
Yeah,
Um,
none of those games have save files.
I don't like that because there were times where I needed to quit the game because I had to go do something or I had to leave or whatever. And I quit the game and I thought I quit it and, it's going to save it, auto save it. And I guess it does, but it doesn't always save exactly where you were. So like I had to repeat like story
Yeah, like
stuff.
it moves you to the closest waypoint, I think.
Yeah. So
Super frustrating.
I hate that myself.
Yeah.
I like when I play a game and I save it, I load it up and it's right where I left it. Um, so that's one thing I really don't like about. I guess that's just Diablo in general. I don't like the outdated
Yeah,
BattleNet
that's always
thing.
happens. Yeah, I think Diablo 2, 3, and 4 they have the same save mechanic, which is like no file, just saves on your character, and it always transports you back to the like waypoint or something, which is yeah, it's always been annoying. But
Um, that's just a general Diablo thing I
yeah,
don't like. But being someone that's only just played the game a little bit, and I'm playing the sorcerer and I'm having fun with it, I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how things progress for me. And I suspect my issues or nitpicks won't be as much as yours because I'm just not as
look, I'm a big Diablo fan,
I'm
so
not
like
as critical as you. Yeah, I'm not a huge Diablo fan. I like Diablo. I'm not like
okay,
hardcore Diablo guy.
let's
So
just give some background. Diablo 2 was like my childhood. I don't know how many hours I played on it because I didn't track it back then, at least if it did anywhere I knew about. And I know I played that game hundreds, if not thousands of hours. Like I played that game so much. Diablo 3, I had a single character. My main character, the witch doctor, had over 1,000 hours. It tracked the hours. So like I played that game a ton.
mm,
I cannot possibly see myself putting 1,000 hours into a character in Diablo 4. First of all, I'm way busier now and like unlikely anyway. But second of all, I just I just got to endgame. I'm already so bored. Now, to be fair, we've talked about this already. They have plans for expansions and patches and seasons and whatnot. It's entirely possible they fix some of the problems that I have. If they just add something to the end game to like make it more interesting, I'm good. And then they add some more like set items, some better loot, maybe change maybe how the legendaries actually affect your skills. I don't know, something. I'll be happier. And I kind of think they will because every single Diablo so far, with the exception of one, because I never played one, has like dramatically improved the game. Like a few years into the game, maybe a year into the game. I don't think it took long for Diablo 3 to become like fucking amazing. For me, I know a lot of people don't like Diablo 3, but I really liked it. So I'm very optimistic that Diablo 4 will get to a place where I'm super happy.
yeah, I think another thing that I'm not struggling with, but which may affect how much I play this game because I'm more of a casual Diablo player. I'm not. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just a casual gamer in general these days. I don't play games all the way through. We talked about this before. I play it
Yeah.
as much as I want to play it, and then if I don't finish it, it's whatever. Um, I know you hate that, but
I don't hate it,
or
but
you
I'm
just don't you don't understand it.
like, so why don't you finish this game?
Yeah. So
So I think a tactic that might work for you, I don't know if you do this already, but a tactic that works for me for like single player story games, I play that shit on like the easiest difficulty and I just blast through that because I I can't play those games for like if it's not like an online or multiplayer or just like kind of loot type game. I have like this limited amount of time I feel like where I can play it, and then like if I haven't finished it, I kind of like abandon it almost.
mm,
I've learned, and it's too hard to jump back into a single player game because, well, for me anyway, I'm always like I have no idea where I was with the story. I don't remember how the like all these powers and stuff that I have like worked. And so yeah, that's something I learned. Just I blast through on the easiest difficulty and have fun if it's a story-based game, because I don't care about all the filler stuff so much. I just want the story. So that might be something that
Well,
would work.
another thing, um, um, I don't see myself playing this that much right now
Yeah.
because um, all I can keep thinking about is Final Fantasy 16.
That comes out in 4 days, I think, as of
and
recording this.
and after playing the demo and playing Diablo 4,
Yeah.
there's no way I'm going to play Diablo 4 once this comes out, because I know this episode is not about Final Fantasy 16, but everything I everything I hoped it would be has measured up, and I haven't been disappointed by anything from the demo anyway. Um, Whereas Diablo 4, I think it'll be a game I pick up here and there. And
Yeah.
I'm probably going to play it this weekend a little bit. But like we were talking about, like certain aspects of Diablo 4 are kind of repetitive and like feel kind of the same, whereas there's a little bit of that in Final Fantasy 16, but each boss I felt like an epic like
Yeah.
showdown. It didn't feel like, okay, here's a boss, blah 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 blah, he's dead.
Right.
So yeah, just based on what I've played so far, I'm pretty optimistic about the sorcerer, and I'm going to stick with him. And then
Yeah.
I feel like right now it's like an 8 out of 10 for me. Um, there's some small things, but I feel like it may go up the more I play. Um, but
I think it'll come down the more you play. I really do. I really do. I think that it might spike up slowly as you play, but I think there's going to be a certain point in the game where that just shoots down. Uh,
yeah, what we may have to
we'll see.
revisit. We may have to revisit this once I've played it more. So maybe we can do another episode where we talk about uh
Yeah.
recircle back once some DLCs come out and once we've both played the game completely. Um, but again, I don't see myself playing it again for a while, just because Final
Yeah.
Fantasy 16 takes priority over everything. And that's a game I'm sure I'm going to finish. I'm
You
saying it
think
right.
so?
I'm saying it right.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
I'm saying it right now. I'm going to finish Final Fantasy 16. And if I
We'll
can get,
see.
and it would be great if you could somehow get past your biases and play it, so we can talk about it on the podcast.
Okay. I might. We'll
But
see.
for now, that's been our Diablo 4 discussion. And even John had several things he doesn't like. He does like the game, and I really like the game so far. And I'm looking forward to playing it more. And again, I'm more of a casual player, so not sure how much I'm going to play it, but I have had a lot of fun with what I have played, and it's because I think I chose a good starting class, sorcerer, which
Yeah, I
is
do regret not playing that.
so. If you played Diablo 4, please tell us your thoughts and share with us. And next episode, not sure what that's going to be, but check it out if you've been watching the episodes. And lastly, John, anything you'd like to? Which way am I pointing? This way. Anything you'd like to share?
I mean, not really. If you're interested in my books, The Trials of Astronaut or Buzzard's Bowl, check them out on Amazon, I guess.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
do it. And then I don't have anything really to promote. So yeah, that's it.
All right.
Thanks. Thanks for watching.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.